All right, let us go sit down at the sewing machine. Because I have a fun tutorial today, and like I said, I got really excited on the way into work thinking about something else to do with this block. So today, my inspiration for our block tutorial came once again from the Red Rock Modern Quilting group that I belong to, and we're doing a block lotto next month in December, and we're doing the Amy Smart Modern Christmas Tree. This is an improv block, which means there's no real pattern. Haha, how fun is that? You get to make it up. And you just follow her instructions, which I will demonstrate today, and then you get to make blocks. So I'm going to show you 4 blocks that I have made today, because you make mirror images of your blocks. So I'm going to actually do, I think, a red and green version for myself. The Modern Guild is doing blues and whites. So this is my first set to go into the block lotto there. I have 1 block I haven't trimmed because we're going to use that to trim when we're done with today's tutorial. So it's going to, what I'm aiming for, just to give you kind of a picture, this is what we're aiming for. This is Amy's sample on her website of all of her trees, and it's called Holiday Patchwork Forest. So you can see, and all the trees are kind of different shapes and different sizes. You've got some fat ones and skinny ones and short ones and tall ones. So we're going to learn how to make this block today, and then you can take off and do whatever you want, because like I said, this is an improv block. You're going to start with 2 squares. High contrast is best. So here's my 2 squares. I've got this green strawberry, not necessarily Christmas, but it's going to be cute. And then I've got a red polka dot. So these are 2 8.5-inch squares. You also need 2 8.5 by 2-inch strips that you're going to cut into 4 1/4. You're going to cut them in half, so they're 4 1/4 by 2. And then you also need 2 excuse me, 1.5 by 2-inch stems, black or brown, for your tree trunks. I have already sewn my stem pieces together because you don't need to watch me sew those. So those are done. The most important thing to watch today is the cutting of our tree. So you're going to take your 2 8.5-inch squares, and you're going to decide how you want to cut it. So you take your ruler, and I couldn't find my skinnier ruler, but I need this for squaring up anyway, so we're just going to use 1 ruler today. And you just decide what angle or how wide you want your tree, how far in. So we're going to, and just because last time I did an improv block, I found I kept cutting kind of the same angle. So I'm just going to decide how I want to do it. And I'm going to say we're going to go about right here. And I'm going to make my first cut, and this is the scary cut. And you can see I've got room for a seam allowance here, and I'm not exactly in the middle up here, which you don't want to go right to the middle. Okay, there's 1 cut. I'm going to set that aside. Then I'm going to decide where I want cut number 2 for Mr. Tree. And I kind of want this one to be a little bit shorter, so I'm going to bring it in and make him a little bit wider. And I'm just playing, I'm eyeballing. There's really no right or wrong with this. It is just going to be what it is. So at this point now, you can see I have 3 pieces. I'm going to lay 1 out on the table so you can see, and then we'll sew the other one, because you do mirror images of them, which are like this. Da, 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 da. That's what this one's going to look like. Okay, so now, and you can notice too, I have high contrast. I also have a different scale print. The polka dot is large. I could have done a tinier polka dot, which I thought about, but I really liked the big polka dot. So now what you're going to do is you're going to sew, and your first seam is always going to be this second cut that you did. Okay, so this was our second cut. You're going to bring this up, and you want to bring the tip of your tree so that you have a 1/4 inch hanging over right there, and then it's gonna, we're just gonna sew down like that. So let's go sew. I don't know how fun it is for you guys to watch me sew, but we get to sew. Today I'm on the FOF Expression 710. So that's really fun. I have my 1/4 inch foot in. I have my needle down active, which I know because of this button here, which means that my presser foot is lifted. I have my ender and leaders on. This one is actually the leader at this time. And I'm going to line up the edge of my fabric. Let me move that a little bit over there, with the edge of my foot. This has been the hardest part for me because this angle feels so weird. I want to make it go straight, and it is straight, but it's just kind of a funky angle feeling. Okay, so we're going to sew, and I'm going to stop and get my fabric lined up underneath, and then we're just going to sew down the edge right here. Now, you want to be careful because you are not on straight of grain, and while you're not on a true bias either, this is stretchy. So you do want to be careful and with your sewing so you don't stretch your block. Okay, I'm going to clip right there, clip this one off. And today, instead of an iron, I have my handy dandy fabric folding pen. I love this tool. If you don't have one of these, I recommend you get it. This is the magic juice that makes the pen work. You put a few drops in the tube and then you fill it with water. So here's this one. We're going to just take this across the seam here, because if I don't have access to an iron, this is awesome. Just run it along your, whoops, I missed that whole part right there. Run it along your seam and then fold open like that. Actually, I want it to go this way. We're going to flip it this way, maybe. I want it, yeah, it doesn't want to do it because I did it that other way first. Let me make it go, make it go. We're going to flip it on this side and put water on this side. Because I was like, wait, I found that that first seam is better if you press your seam to the background side of your tree, which I forgot when I was originally putting that in. Okay, there's our first seam. Now we're going to take our next piece, which goes like this. And again, we're going to make sure that at the top I have a 1/4 inch hangover. Right, and at the bottom, I also will have a 1/4 inch, or maybe a little bit more right there, but that's what you want. And don't stress about it. Please, trust me, this is going to work. This is so much fun. And this is such a totally, I want to say freeing, because you are in charge of what they look like. And even if you're like, oh, I don't know if I like it, it will work really well in your project because they're all going to be different. And again, this is improv, which means there's no strict rules. It's kind of a very modern thing to do, and loads and loads of fun. Okay, and with the ender, snip it, whoops, snip, snip, snip. Don't take your eye off where you're snipping. That's what I just did. Plus my scissors, I'm not so sure they're super sharp. Okay, fabric folding pen again. We're going to press it this way. And then we're going to take it to the cutting mat and trim up the bottom. Okay, so it's all folded. And that's what it looks like. And you're like, but Karen, we've got this problem right here. You can see that we're not square. That's okay. Now we're going to come back to the cutting mat. Bring back my ruler. And I'm going to line that up. And we're going to trim these tails off right there so that it's even. Even, that always looks like it doesn't close. To have the stem piece sewn on right there. Now, Amy has given us a little bit of extra room on these stem pieces, because remember, we cut this at 8.5, but we are now not at 8.5 because we've taken 2 seams in, so we're about an inch shorter, maybe ½ inch shorter. So now we can line up our stem where we want it. And I'm like, this is pretty funny because it actually is lining up my polka dots almost perfectly right there. That's like, what? So it's time to sew the stem on. So I'm going to just flip that over and we're going to go sew the stem. You decide how near the center of your tree you want your stem. And you can see I have a lot more extra on this end than I do at the end. Okay. And we're just gonna smoosh that just a tad right there, because that's a happy accident to get those polka dots to line up like that. Okay, just sew that 1/4 inch seam all the way down, paying attention to keeping your seam allowances the direction they're supposed to go. And we'll just keep sewing that. Ender coming up. Alrighty, clip that one. Whoops, that was tight right there. Fabric folding pen again. Now, if I were at my home, of course, I would be pressing these, and I would probably make several. I mean, I do at least 2 at a time because you're keeping them in pairs so you don't get them mixed up. Where am I going? I don't know where I'm going. This way today. Make that work. Make that work. I think normally I would press towards the tree because there's fewer seams on the tree side. But that's what it looks like. Our tree, now we can trim. I could have trimmed the blue one, but we're going to just trim this one because we're ready right here. Okay, so your blocks might even end up kind of all different sizes. That's okay. You might have to retrim to get them back to the same size, but that's neither here nor there to start with. So I just want to get a straight line, and I might trim a little bit off right here because right now on my, and I don't know if you can see through the glare, I'm at 7.5. 7 7/8 is my mark for this side right here on this part. So I'm just going to trim this. I can bring it over, but I don't know that I'm completely square. Yeah, it looks like we're pretty good. No, well, we'll fix it in a minute. That's what I mean. I'm going to line up my line on my ruler with my last seam that I sewed, and I can see that I am not square because I've got a little bit that gets bigger up towards the top of my ruler. That's okay. We're going to square that off, trim that off, rotating mat, and now again I'm going to line up my line and see if I am all the way. So I'm going to actually make this a 7 3/4 inch block. This line is straight, this line is straight, and I'm just going to trim that excess off right there, and I'm happy. And your blocks don't have to be all the same width unless, because you might want to add some stars or something in. I don't know. We're going to play with this. But this is how you make the blocks. Ta-da! I think that is so cute and so much fun. And not next week, because next week's Thanksgiving, and I won't be doing one of these. The following week is the Kimberbell demo, so in 3 weeks we'll be playing more with these and embellishing these to make them even more special than they are. So thank you for watching. Thank you for joining. Thank you for sharing and liking, and hi everybody, because I didn't say that at the beginning. And happy Thanksgiving again, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. All right, bye-bye.